My name is Sarah, I'm 46 years old, and last Tuesday, I woke up to find that my husband of 20 years had stolen $200,000 from our children and left me for a 24-year-old receptionist. Before I tell you about the call he made 3 days later, the one where he was screaming, crying, and begging for a life he had already set on fire, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. I want to know I'm not alone in this. It started like any other Tuesday. That's the thing about catastrophes, they don't knock on the door or ring a bell before they tear your house down. They just walk in while you're making coffee. I was sitting at our kitchen island. It's a granite island I spent 3 years saving for, cutting coupons and skipping vacations so we could finally upgrade the kitchen. The morning sun was hitting the window, and the house was quiet. Mark, my husband, had left for work early, or so he said. He'd been leaving early a lot lately. Market research, he called it. Client breakfasts. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? We had been married for 2 decades. We had built a life, a home, and 2 incredible daughters together. I opened my laptop to check our finances. It was a ritual I did every Tuesday morning. I'm an accountant by trade, though I haven't worked full-time since the twins were born. Mark always said my job was to manage the home economy while he went out and hunted the big game in the real estate market. So, I took my job seriously. I managed every penny. I logged into the bank portal. I needed to transfer the deposit for Emma's dorm room at Stanford and check the tuition installment for Chloe's acceptance to MIT. My hands were actually trembling a little, not from fear, but from pride. Do you know how hard we worked for this? 17 years of putting away $50 here, $100 there. 17 years of driving a minivan that rattled when it went over 40 miles per hour, just so that number in the savings account could grow. The web page loaded. The little blue wheel spun for a second, and then the numbers popped up. I blinked. I took a sip of my coffee, thinking maybe my eyes were still blurry from sleep. I leaned in closer to the screen. The tuition fund account line was there. But the number next to it wasn't $200,000. It was $0. My heart didn't race. It stopped. It literally felt like it stopped beating in my chest. A cold wave washed over me, starting at my scalp and rushing down to my toes. It was a physical sensation, like being dunked in ice water. I refreshed the page. Click. $0. I refreshed it again, hitting the F5 key so hard the plastic cap popped off. $0. No, I whispered. My voice sounded tiny in the empty kitchen. No, no, no. This is a glitch. This is a bank error. I clicked on the transaction history. My fingers were shaking so badly I could barely control the mouse. The list loaded, and there it was. One single line item, dated yesterday at 4:55 p.m., just 5 minutes before the bank closed. Transfer to external account ending in 8894. Authorization, Mark J. Reynolds. Amount, minus $200,000.00. He didn't just take the tuition money. I frantically clicked on our emergency savings. 0. I checked the checking account. $400 left. Just enough to keep the account open so no alarms would trigger immediately. He had cleaned us out. I grabbed my phone. I didn't think, I just reacted. I dialed Mark's number. It rang. And rang. And rang. Pick up, I hissed through my teeth. Pick up, you coward. It went to voicemail. I called again. And again. On the 4th try, he answered. But he didn't say hello, honey, or what's wrong. I was wondering how long it would take you, he said. His voice was terrifyingly calm. It wasn't the voice of the man I married. It was the voice of a stranger who viewed me as an obstacle he had finally stepped over. Mark? I choked out. The accounts. The money. It's all gone. There's a mistake, there's no mistake, Sarah, he cut me off. I could hear wind in the background, like he was driving with the top down. I took what was mine. Yours? I stood up, knocking my coffee mug onto the floor. It shattered, hot liquid splashing over my socks, but I didn't feel the burn. That is the girl's college money. That is 17 years of savings. Mark, Emma needs that deposit for Stanford by Friday. Emma is a smart girl, Mark said, and I could hear the smirk in his voice. She can get a loan. Or she can go to a state school. I'm done paying for everyone else's life while mine rots away. Rots away? I screamed. You drive a BMW. You wear a Rolex. I buy my clothes at Walmart, Mark. How is your life rotting? You wouldn't understand, he sighed, sounding bored. You're too simple, Sarah. You've always been too simple. You're happy with coupons and pot roasts. I need vitality. I need a fresh start. And Tiffany and I are going to have that. Tiffany. The name hung in the air like toxic smoke. Tiffany was the new intern at his real estate firm. She was 24. She had fake eyelashes that looked like spiders and she chewed gum with her mouth open. I had met her at the Christmas party. She had called me ma'am and looked at my sensible shoes with open pity. You stole our children's future for a receptionist? I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of rage and grief. She appreciates me, Mark snapped. And we're going to Florida. Don't bother looking for us. By the time you get a lawyer, the money will be offshore and I'll be gone. Consider this your severance package, Sarah. The house is in your name, mostly because the mortgage is underwater and I didn't want the debt. Enjoy the minivan. Mark, please, I begged, the reality crashing down on me. Do this to me if you want. Leave me. But don't punish the twins. They are your daughters. They worked so hard. They'll survive. Everyone has to pull themselves up by their bootstraps eventually. I'm doing them a favor, he said. Goodbye, Sarah. Don't call again. I've already thrown this SIM card out the window. The line went dead. I stood there in the middle of my kitchen, surrounded by the smell of spilled coffee and the silence of a destroyed life. I looked at the phone. I looked at the shattered mug on the floor. My husband was gone. My money was gone. My daughter's dreams were gone. I sank to my knees right there in the puddle of cold coffee. I pulled my knees to my chest and let out a sound I didn't know I could make, a guttural, animalistic howl of pure despair. I cried until my throat felt like it was bleeding. I cried for the 20 years I wasted. I cried for the trust one had given so freely. But mostly, I cried because I had to tell my two brilliant, hard-working daughters that their father loved a 24-year-old stranger more than he loved them. I don't know how long I lay on the kitchen floor. It might have been minutes, it might have been hours. The sun moved across the room, shifting from the bright yellow of morning to the harsh white of midday. I felt hollowed out. Like someone had reached inside my chest and scooped out everything that made me Sarah, the optimism, the stability, the motherly strength. I eventually forced myself up. I had to. The twins would be home from school soon. I tried to clean up the coffee, but my hands were shaking so badly I cut my finger on a shard of ceramic. I watched the blood bead up, bright red against my pale skin, and I just stared at it. I couldn't even feel the pain. The pain in my heart was too loud. When I heard the front door unlock at 3 p.m., panic seized me. I wasn't ready. How do you look your children in the eye and tell them their father is a thief? How do you tell them that the MIT acceptance letter Chloe had framed on her wall was now just a worthless piece of paper because we couldn't afford the tuition? Mom? We're home. Emma's voice rang out from the hallway. Something smells like old coffee, Chloe added. They walked into the kitchen, dropping their heavy backpacks on the bench. They looked so much alike and yet so different. Emma, with her hair in a tight, professional bun, already dressing like the lawyer she wanted to be. Chloe, with her messy ponytail and a hoodie that was 2 sizes too big, tapping away on her phone. They stopped when they saw me. I must have looked like a ghost. My eyes were swollen shut from crying. My hair was a mess. There was a dried coffee stain on my shirt and a bandage on my finger. "Mom?" Emma's face dropped. She rushed over. "Mom, what happened? Are you hurt?" Chloe put her phone down, her eyes scanning the room, analyzing the scene like the little detective she was. "Dad's not here," she observed quietly. "And Mom looks like someone died." I tried to speak, but a fresh wave of tears choked me. I grabbed Emma's hand and reached for Chloe's arm. "Girls, please sit down." They sat on the bar stools, watching me with intense, dark eyes, Mark's eyes. That realization made me want to vomit. "I have to tell you something terrible," I stammered. "It's about your father. And the money." I took a deep breath, preparing for the screams. Preparing for the tears. "I checked the accounts this morning. The college fund, the tuition money, it's gone. All of it." I couldn't look at them. I stared at the granite countertop. "Your father took it. He emptied the savings, the emergency fund, everything. He called me. He's leaving us. He's moving to Florida with a woman named Tiffany." I squeezed my eyes shut, waiting for the explosion. I expected Emma to throw something. I expected Chloe to start crying about MIT. I prepared myself to hold them, to promise them I would take out 3 jobs, that I would sell the house, that I would fix it somehow. But the explosion never came. Instead, silence. Then, a sound that made my blood run cold. A snort. I opened my eyes. Emma wasn't crying. She was looking at Chloe. And Chloe? Chloe was looking at her Apple Watch, tapping the screen calmly. 3:05 p.m., Chloe said. "Right on schedule." "He actually did it," Emma said, shaking her head. But she didn't look devastated. She looked impressed? No, not impressed. She looked vindicated. "I told you he would wait until the Tuesday transfer window." "Mom," Chloe said, finally looking at me. "Are you done crying? Because we need you to focus." I stared at them, my mouth hanging open. "What? Did you hear me? The money is gone. $200,000. Your college. Stanford. MIT. It's gone." "It's not gone, Mom," Emma said, her voice eerily calm. She stood up and walked over to the refrigerator, grabbing a bottle of water. "It's just relocated temporarily." "I don't understand," I whispered. "Why aren't you upset? Your father left us." "We know," both of them said in unison. Chloe hopped off the stool and walked over to me. She put her hands on my shoulders. She's 17, but in that moment, she felt like the parent and I felt like the child. "Mom, we've known about Tiffany for 3 months." 3 months? I gasped. "And you didn't tell me?" "We couldn't," Emma said, leaning against the counter. "If we told you 3 months ago, what would you have done? Be honest." I would have confronted him," I said. "Exactly," Emma nodded. "You would have confronted him. He would have denied it. Or worse, he would have filed for divorce immediately. And since he makes all the money and hides half of it in business expenses, he would have hired a shark lawyer, given you a tiny settlement, and kept the bulk of the cash. He hadn't stolen the college fund yet. It was still legally his money too. We needed him to commit a crime." I looked back and forth between them, feeling dizzy. "A crime?" "Theft," Chloe said, a small, terrifying smirk playing on her lips. "Fraud. Embezzlement from marital assets with intent to abandon. We needed him to actually transfer the money out. We needed him to cross the line from cheating husband to financial criminal." "We've been watching him, Mom," Emma said. Since the day Chloe hacked his iCloud. I didn't hack it, Chloe corrected, rolling her eyes. He used password 1234 and his birthday. It was an invitation, really. The point is, Emma continued, we saw the texts. We saw the emails with Tiffany. We saw the plan to move to Florida. We knew he was going to drain the account this week because the tuition bills are due next week. So you let him? I shouted, hysteria bubbling up again. You let him steal our life savings? We let him think he stole it, Chloe corrected. She pulled her laptop out of her bag and opened it on the kitchen island. She typed furiously for a few seconds, then spun the laptop around to face me. Mom, look. I looked at the screen. It was a live map, a GPS tracker. A blinking red dot was moving south on I-95. That's Dad's phone, Chloe said. And the iPad he keeps in his briefcase? I installed a mirrored keylogger on it 6 weeks ago. Every password he types, I see. Every bank account he logs into, I have access to. And Tiffany? Emma asked, crossing her arms. Mom, Tiffany isn't just a receptionist. Chloe did a background check. She's got $40,000 in credit card debt and a history of dating older men for gifts. But here is the kicker. Emma leaned in close, her eyes gleaming with a cold, fierce intelligence I had never seen before. Tiffany doesn't love Dad. She thinks he's a rich idiot. And she has a boyfriend named Richard in Miami who she's actually planning to run away with once she gets Dad's money. My head was spinning. My innocent, teenage daughters, who I thought were worrying about prom dresses and AP history, had been running a covert surveillance operation on their own father for a quarter of a year. So. I swallowed hard. What do we do? He has the money. For now, Chloe said. She tapped a key on her keyboard. A new window opened. It looked like a banking interface, but it wasn't ours. It was a bank in the Cayman Islands. He opened this account last week, Chloe explained. He thinks it's untraceable. He just moved the $200,000 there. He feels safe right now. He feels like he won. Let him have his moment, Emma said, her voice dripping with ice. Let him drive to Florida. Let him check into that penthouse he rented. Let him think he's free. Because on Friday, Chloe said, looking up at me with a smile that was sharp enough to cut glass, we're going to introduce him to a little thing called Operation Karma. Mom, Emma said softly, don't worry. We handled it. He didn't steal our future. He just signed his own death warrant. I looked at my daughters. I stopped seeing little girls. I saw warriors. And for the first time all day, I stopped crying. I wiped my face with the back of my hand. Okay, I whispered. Show me everything. To understand why my daughter's reaction wasn't cruelty, but survival, you have to understand the 20 years that came before that Tuesday. You have to understand Mark. When I met Mark, he wasn't a monster. He was charming. He was ambitious. He was the kind of man who opened doors and remembered your favorite flower. I was 24, fresh out of accounting school, and I thought I had won the lottery. But ambition is a funny thing. It's like a fire, it can warm your house, or it can burn it down. When the twins were born, Mark sat me down. Sarah, he said, holding my hands. I'm going to build an empire for us. But I need you to handle the home front. I can't worry about groceries or laundry or bills if I'm going to be a CEO. Can you do that for our family? I said yes. Of course I said yes. I viewed it as a partnership. He was the offense, I was the defense. But over the years, the partnership shifted. Mark started making real money, 6 figures, then bonuses, then commissions. But our lifestyle didn't change. At least, my lifestyle didn't. We need to reinvest, he would tell me when I asked to fix the leaking roof. Appearances matter, He would say when he bought a $80,000 BMW while I was driving a 2012 Honda Odyssey with a dented bumper. "You don't need new clothes, honey, you look fine. Besides, nobody looks at the moms at the PTA," he said when I asked for a budget to buy a dress for his company gala. I became the invisible engine of his life. I clipped coupons. I shopped at Walmart. I learned to cook gourmet meals out of discount ingredients so he wouldn't complain. I did his taxes. I managed his rental properties for free so he wouldn't have to hire a manager. I saved every single penny I could squeeze out of the household budget and put it into the college fund. That fund was my holy grail. I grew up poor. I didn't want my girls to have student loans hanging over their heads like I did. Mark knew this. He knew that money was sacred territory. About 8 months ago, the shift happened. It wasn't subtle, looking back. It was like the temperature in the house dropped 10 degrees. Mark stopped coming home for dinner. When he did come home, he was critical. Viciously critical. "Why are you wearing that sweater? It makes you look frumpy," he'd sneer while watching TV. "You're so boring, Sarah. All you talk about is the kids and the bills. Do you have a single interesting thought in your head?" He started gaslighting me. If I asked where he was, he'd call me paranoid. If I asked why there was a charge for a jewelry store on the credit card statement, he'd say it was a gift for a client's wife and that I was too stupid about business to understand relationship building. I felt small. I felt ugly. I felt like a burden. I just kept telling myself it was a phase, I told the girls as we sat in the living room that evening. The sun had gone down, and the only light came from the glow of the TV screen where Chloe had projected her laptop. I thought he was just stressed about work. "He wasn't stressed, Mom," Emma said, her voice tight. "He was bored." Narcissists get bored when they feel like they've extracted all the value they can from a person. "Look at this," Chloe said, pointing to the screen. It was a timeline. My daughters had built a literal timeline of the affair. February 14th, Valentine's Day. Mark told me he had to work late. Evidence, a receipt from the French Rose Bistro. Dinner for two, $450. Followed by a hotel charge at the Ritz. March 20th, my birthday. Mark gave me a vacuum cleaner. Evidence, an email to Tiffany. Subject, thinking of you. Content, I can't stand being here with her. She's aging like milk. You're the only thing that makes me feel alive, babe. Buying you that bracelet today made my week. Aging like milk, I repeated, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. Don't let it hurt you, Emma said fiercely. He's projecting. He's a 50-year-old man terrified of his own mortality, so he's rewriting history to make you the villain. It justifies his betrayal. If you're boring and old, then he isn't a bad guy for leaving, he's a victim escaping a bad marriage. It's classic textbook manipulation. And here is the smoking gun, Chloe said. She clicked on a folder named The Escape Plan. He didn't just decide this yesterday, Chloe explained. He's been planning to liquidate us for 6 weeks. Look at these Google searches. She scrolled down a list captured from his iPad. How to hide assets in divorce non-extradition countries for financial crimes. Cost of living in Miami penthouse. Can wife touch offshore accounts? He Googled can wife touch offshore accounts, I said, feeling a strange mix of horror and laughter bubbling up. He really is a cliché. He's a cliché with our money, Emma reminded me. But he made one mistake. What? I asked. He underestimated the boring people, Chloe grinned. He thought because you were nice, you were weak. And he thought because we were teenagers, we were oblivious. He forgot that you taught me math and you taught Emma how to argue. I looked at the timeline again. 8 months of lies. 8 months of him sleeping in my bed, eating my food, and planning to destroy me. The sadness began to evaporate, replaced by something hotter. Something solid. Anger. Not the explosive, screaming anger I felt earlier. This was a cold, calculating anger. The kind of anger that sharpens your vision. Okay, I said, sitting up straighter. So we know everything. We know where he is. We know about the money. What is the plan? Emma stood up and walked to the whiteboard we used for grocery lists. She wiped off milk and eggs. She picked up a marker and wrote 2 words in big, bold letters. Operation Karma Phase 1 is already complete, Emma said. That was let him take the bait. He took the money. He crossed state lines. He is now vulnerable to federal charges. Phase 2, Chloe piped up, is the honey trap. And that is currently in progress. Honey trap? I asked. What do you mean? Mom, Chloe smirked. You didn't really think Tiffany was just innocently waiting for him in Florida, did you? She's been talking to someone else for the last 2 weeks. A very rich, very handsome, crypto millionaire named Kyle. Who is Kyle? I asked. Me, Chloe pointed to herself. I am Kyle. The living room felt like a war room. The curtains were drawn. Pizza boxes, the first meal I hadn't cooked in years, sat open on the coffee table. The twins were operating with a synchronization that was almost scary. Show Mom the Kyle logs, Emma directed. Chloe tapped her keyboard, and a new window popped up. It was an Instagram direct message interface. On one side was Tiffany_love_Zoxo. On the other was Kyle_crypto_king, a profile featuring photos of a generic handsome guy on yachts, holding stacks of cash, and driving Lamborghinis. I used AI to generate Kyle's face, Chloe explained casually. And I photoshopped him into these lifestyle pics. It took me like 2 hours. Tiffany bought it instantly. I read the messages. They were nauseating, but revealing. Kyle, Chloe, so when are you ditching the old guy? I'm flying into Miami on Friday. I want to take you shopping. Tiffany, ugh, soon baby. He's driving down now. He's bringing the cash. Once I get him to transfer a chunk to my account for security, I'm going to ghost him. He's so clingy. It's gross. Kyle, Chloe, just make sure you get the bag. We need that seed money for our trip to Ibiza, winky face. Tiffany, don't worry. He's obsessed with me. I have him wrapped around my finger. He thinks we're getting married, lol. Oh my God, I whispered. She's playing him. Ideally, Emma said, analyzing the text like a lawyer reviewing a contract. She is the pivot point. Mark thinks he's running to his dream life. He doesn't realize he's running into a buzzsaw. But we need to make sure the trap snaps shut at the exact right moment. Wait, I interrupted. You said Mark transferred the money to a Cayman account. Can we actually get it back? If Tiffany scams him, she gets the money. We still lose. That's the beauty of it, Chloe said. Mark thinks he transferred it to a Cayman account. But remember? I have access to his iPad. When he set up that transfer yesterday, I might have intercepted the traffic. I stared at her. You what? Man in the middle attack, Chloe said, tossing a piece of pepperoni into her mouth. Basic stuff, Mom. I rerouted the display to show him a success screen for the Cayman Bank. But in the background, I changed the routing number. My heart hammered against my ribs. Where did the money go, Chloe? It's in a holding account, she said. A secure escrow account I set up under your name. Well, technically under a shell LLC named Karma Consulting. The money never left the country. It's sitting in a bank in Delaware right now. I gasped, covering my mouth. You have the money? We have it, Emma confirmed. But Mark doesn't know that yet. He sees the money in his fake banking app on his phone, which Chloe also modified. He thinks he's rich. He's going to spend the next 2 days driving to Florida, fantasizing about his new life, running up credit card debt he can't pay, and burning every bridge he has. And when he gets there, Chloe grinned, and tries to actually spend that money, or give it to Tiffany, the card is going to decline. The transfer will fail. And the app will show him the real balance. 0, I whispered. 0, they repeated. But we aren't done, Emma said, her face hardening. Getting the money back is just defense. We need offense. We need to make sure he can never hurt us again. We need to ruin his reputation so he can't lie to everyone and say you were the crazy one. How do we do that? We go to his boss, Emma said. Tomorrow. She pulled up another folder, Mark_work_fraud. While digging through his emails, Emma said, we found something interesting. Mark hasn't just been stealing from us. He's been padding his expense reports at the firm for 2 years. Ghost dinners with clients who don't exist. Travel expenses for site visits that were actually weekends away with Tiffany. That's illegal, I said. He could go to jail. He's stealing from Mr. Harrison, Emma said. And Mr. Harrison is a deacon at his church. He hates dishonesty. If we show him this, he loses his job, I finished. He loses his career, Emma corrected. He loses his license. He loses his leverage. I looked at the screen. The evidence was overwhelming. It wasn't just a divorce case, it was an autopsy of a man's moral corruption. Why are you doing this? I asked them, tears pricking my eyes again. You shouldn't have to deal with this. You're children. We aren't children, Mom, Chloe said softly. Not anymore. And we're doing it because of what he said about you, Emma added, her voice fierce. We heard him on the phone, Mom. We heard him call you simple. We heard him say you were rotting. You sacrificed everything for us. You gave up your career. You drove that stupid van. You wore those old clothes so we could have braces and field trips. Emma stood up and hugged me, burying her face in my shoulder. He doesn't get to call you useless. He doesn't get to take your hard work and give it to a 24-year-old. We are taking it back. All of it. I hugged my daughters tight. In that moment, I realized that my investment, my 20 years of sacrifice, hadn't been wasted. It hadn't gone into the stock market or a savings account. It had gone into them. And the return on investment was standing right here, hugging me, armed with laptops and righteous fury. Okay, I said, pulling back and wiping my face. Tomorrow, we go to Mr. Harrison's office. Let's burn it down. Wednesday morning felt surreal. Usually, I would be making pancakes and packing lunches. Instead, I was putting on my best suit, a charcoal gray blazer I hadn't worn in 5 years, and reviewing forensic accounting documents with my teenage daughters. Remember, Mom, Emma coached me as we drove to Mark's office building. You are the grieving, confused wife. You aren't vindictive. You are concerned. You found these strange discrepancies and you just want to make sure the company is okay. Play the victim, I nodded. I can do that. I feel like a victim. No, Emma corrected, checking her lipstick in the visor mirror. You were a victim. Now, you are the whistleblower. There is a difference. We pulled into the parking lot of Reynolds and Associates. It was a glass and steel building that screamed money. Mark loved working here. He loved the status. I walked in with a heavy box of files. The receptionist, not Tiffany, thankfully, she was supposedly out sick, looked at me with surprise. Mrs. Reynolds? Is Mark okay? He called in saying he had a family emergency. A family emergency, I repeated, almost laughing at the irony. Yes. Something like that. Is Mr. Harrison in? 10 minutes later, I was sitting across from Richard Harrison. He was a man in his 60s, stern but kind, the kind of man who believed in handshakes and hard work. Sarah, he said, offering me water. I was sorry to hear about the emergency. Mark said you were ill. He said I was ill? I asked. Yes. That's why he had to take the week off. To care for you. My blood boiled. He was using me as his excuse to drive his mistress to Florida. Mr. Harrison, I said, placing the box on his desk. I'm not ill. But I am afraid I have some very difficult news. And it involves Mark's expense accounts. I laid it out. I didn't need Emma's coaching for this part, I was an accountant. I knew how to present numbers. I showed him the credit card statements. I showed him the dates that clashed with his supposed client meetings. Here, I pointed to a charge. $600 at the Palm Steakhouse on November 12th. He claimed he was with the Johnson clients. But the Johnsons were in Europe that week. I know, because I saw their Facebook posts. Mr. Harrison put on his reading glasses. He went quiet. He flipped through page after page. His face turned from concern to red-faced anger. And here, I continued, are the Uber receipts. He's been charging the company for rides to this address. That's the Lakeview Apartments, Mr. Harrison muttered. That's where our intern, Tiffany, lives. He looked up at me, taking off his glasses. Sarah. Are you telling me what I think you're telling me? He's left me, Richard, I said, allowing my voice to break. He emptied our bank accounts yesterday and left for Florida. I believe he intends to disappear. Richard Harrison stood up. He walked to the window and looked out. He used my company card to fund his affair? He used my company resources to steal from his family? Yes, I said. He turned back to me. I will handle this, Sarah. I'm freezing his 401k matching immediately pending an investigation. I'm locking him out of the company servers right now. And Sarah? Yes? You keep those files. If you need a lawyer, I have a shark on retainer. I don't tolerate thieves. Not in my company, and certainly not doing this. I walked out of that office feeling lighter. Step 1 was complete. Mark had no job to come back to. When I got back to the car, Emma and Chloe were high-fiving. We were monitoring the company network, Chloe said. IT just issued a kill command on Mark's credentials. His work email is dead. His keycard is deactivated. And, Emma checked her phone, Mr. Harrison just CC'd you on an email to legal. He's filing a police report for corporate theft. Good, I said, starting the car. What's next? Now, Chloe said, we check on our traveler. According to GPS, he just crossed the Georgia state line. He's stopping for lunch. Let's see how Tiffany is holding up, Emma suggested. Wednesday night. The house was quiet again, but it wasn't the lonely quiet of yesterday. It was the focused quiet of a command center. We had Mark's location. He was at a Motel 6 in southern Georgia. Apparently, he was trying to save money on the drive down, probably planning to blow it all once he hit Miami. Okay, phase 3, Chloe said, cracking her knuckles. It's time for Kyle to make his move. She opened the Instagram chat with Tiffany again. Kyle, Chloe, hey beautiful. Bad news. My business partner is giving me grief about the liquid cash for the investment. I might be short for our trip. Tiffany, what? You promised. I'm already packing. Kyle, Chloe, I know. Look, if you can front the deposit for the villa, I'll pay you back double when I land on Friday. I just need to know you're serious. Tiffany, how much? Kyle, Chloe, $5,000. Just to hold the reservation. Can you do it? She doesn't have $5,000, Emma noted. She's maxed out. Exactly, Chloe said. So where is she going to get it? We watched the screen. 3 dots appeared as Tiffany typed. Then stopped. Then typed again. Tiffany, I can get it. My ex. is bringing me some cash tomorrow. I'll wire it to you as soon as he gets here. Kyle, Chloe perfect. You're the best, babe. Can't wait to ditch this loser life and party with you. She's going to demand cash from Dad the second he walks in the door, Emma laughed. She's not even going to pretend to be happy to see him. She's going to be desperate for his money to pay Kyle. And Dad thinks he's arriving as the conquering hero, I said, shaking my head. He thinks she loves him. It gets better, Chloe said. Look at Dad's search history from the motel Wi-Fi. I'm tunneling his traffic. She put it on the screen. Tiffany Reynolds engagement ring size best beaches for proposals Miami how to write wedding vows he's going to propose? I felt a wave of nausea. He left us yesterday. He hasn't even divorced me yet, and he's Googling proposals? He's manic, Emma said. He's in the grandiosity phase. He thinks he's the main character in a romantic movie. He thinks the money solves everything. He thinks he can just buy a new life. He's about to find out that his co-star is working from a different script, Chloe said. Thursday passed in a blur of anticipation. We watched the red dot move through Florida. Orlando. West Palm Beach. Fort Lauderdale. At 4 p.m. on Thursday, the dot stopped. He's there, Chloe whispered. He's at the address Tiffany gave him. It was a ritzy apartment complex in Miami. Not the penthouse he thought he rented, that was a scam listing Chloe had led him to earlier, but he hadn't realized that yet, but Tiffany's temporary sublet. Okay, Chloe said. I'm activating the microphone on his iPad. It's in his bag, so the audio will be muffled, but we should hear it. We huddled around the laptop speakers. Static. Then, the sound of a door opening. Tiff. Baby. Mark's voice. He sounded eager, breathless. Mark, Tiffany's voice. Flat. Impatient. You're late. Did you bring it? Is that how you say hello? Mark laughed, a nervous sound. I drove 12 hours to get to you. Look, I got us champagne. I don't want champagne, Mark. I need the cash. You said you transferred the $200,000. Is it accessible? Can we pull out $5,000 right now? Whoa, slow down, Mark said. It's in the account, yes. But, hey, let me look at you. God, you look beautiful. Come here. Stop, Tiffany snapped. I'm serious. I need $5,000. Now. Why? What's wrong? Just give me the damn card. We heard a scuffle. Then the sound of a zipper. Fine, Mark said, sounding hurt. Here. It's the platinum debit. But Tiff, we need to talk. I left Sarah. I did it. We're free. Great, she said. I'm going to the ATM. Wait here. Wait, I'll come with you. No. Stay here. I need to buy some things for us. Just stay. A door slammed. She's going to the ATM, Chloe narrated. She's going to try to pull out the max. And? I asked, holding my breath. And, Chloe smiled, pressing a button on her keyboard. I just unlocked the real balance view on his banking app. And I just flagged that card as stolen. We waited. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. Then, the iPad microphone picked up the sound of the door opening again. But this time, it wasn't a happy entrance. You liar. Tiffany screamed. What? Mark sounded confused. You're back already? The card was declined. The machine ate it. It said stolen card. That's impossible, Mark said. There's over 200 grand in there. It must be a security hold because we're in Florida. Let me call the bank. I checked the app on your phone while you were in the bathroom. Tiffany shrieked. I saw the balance, Mark. Yeah, it's huge, Mark said confidently. It's zero. What? It says zero. Available balance, $0. Pending transfers, none. You're crazy, Mark's voice pitched up. Give me the phone. Silence for a few seconds. Then. No, Mark whispered. No, no, no. That's a glitch. Look here at the Cayman account. That's a screenshot, you idiot. Tiffany yelled. I tapped on it. It's just a picture. There is no account. You don't have the money. I do. I swear. Sarah must have. No, Sarah doesn't know how to do this. There's a mistake. The only mistake, Tiffany hissed, was me trusting a broke, old loser like you. Where's the money, Mark? Kyle needs the money. Who is Kyle? Mark asked. The air went out of the room. My boyfriend. Tiffany yelled. The guy I'm actually going to Ibiza with. You were just the wallet, Mark. And clearly, you're an empty wallet. Boyfriend? Mark sounded broken. But, the engagement ring. I left my wife. Get out, Tiffany said. Cold. Hard. Get out of my apartment. If you aren't rich, you're just a creepy old guy crashing on my couch. Get out. Tiff, please, I have nowhere to go. I can fix this. I can call the bank. I'm calling the cops, she screamed. Get out. We heard the door slam. Then silence. Then the sound of Mark breathing heavily, standing in the hallway. He's alone, Emma whispered. He has no money. No car, the repo order on the BMW just went through, by the way, I tipped off the leasing company to his location. No job. No mistress. And, I added, looking at the phone, he's about to realize he has no family. That was Thursday night. We let him simmer for 24 hours. We let him sleep in his car, until the tow truck came. We let him try to use his credit cards, all declined. We let him try to log into his work email, blocked. Then, on Friday morning, my phone rang. It was Mark. I looked at the twins. They nodded. I picked up the phone and put it on speaker. The phone rang. The screen flashed husband. It was a word that used to mean safety, partnership, love. Now, it looked like a threat. I looked at Emma and Chloe. They were sitting at the kitchen table, the command center of our resistance. Emma gave a small, sharp nod. Chloe adjusted the volume on the speakerphone. I pressed the green button. Sarah? His voice cracked. It wasn't the booming, arrogant baritone of the man who had told me I was rotting 3 days ago. It was high, thin, and vibrating with panic. It was the voice of a man standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down, and realizing he had forgotten his parachute. I'm here, Mark, I said. My voice was steady. Steadier than I felt. I gripped the edge of the counter so hard my knuckles turned white. Oh, thank God, he breathed. Sarah, listen to me. Something terrible has happened. I've been robbed. I muted the phone for a split second to look at the girls. Chloe rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. I unmuted. Robbed? I asked. You mean the money you took from the girls' tuition fund? The $200,000 you stole from your family? Someone stole that? No. I mean, yes. I mean, it's complicated. He was stammering, tripping over his own lies. I didn't steal it, Sarah. I was moving it to protect it. The market is volatile right now. I was trying to secure our future. By transferring it to a secret account and driving to Miami to meet your mistress? I asked. Is that your investment strategy, Mark? Investing in 24-year-olds? Silence on the other end. Then, a heavy, ragged sigh. "You know about Tiffany," he whispered. "We know everything, Dad," Emma spoke up, her voice cutting through the speaker like a knife. "Emma? Is that you?" Mark sounded horrified. "Sarah, why are the kids listening? This is a private conversation between husband and wife." "You lost the right to privacy when you emptied their college accounts," I snapped. "You made this their business when you decided their future was less important than your midlife crisis." "I made a mistake, okay?" he shouted, the old anger flaring up for a second before collapsing back into desperation. "I made a huge mistake. Tiffany, she's crazy, Sarah. She's not who I thought she was. She lured me down here. She manipulated me." "Oh, she manipulated you?" I laughed. It was a dark, humorless sound. "Mark, you are 50 years old. You are a grown man. You packed your bags. You planned this for months. Don't blame the girl." "I have no money, Sarah," he broke down, weeping now. Actual, ugly sobbing. "The cards aren't working. The bank app says 0. My car, they took the car an hour ago. I'm at a gas station on I-95. I have $12 in cash. I have nowhere to go." "That sounds like a predicament," I said coolly. "I need you to wire me money for a bus ticket," he begged. "Please. Just get me home. We can fix this. I'll explain everything. I'll put the money back, once we figure out the bank error. We can go to counseling. I'll make it up to you. I love you, Sarah. You're my wife." The audacity. The sheer, unadulterated gall of this man. He had set our house on fire, and now that he had singed his own eyebrows, he wanted me to bring him a bucket of water. I closed my eyes. A part of me, the old Sarah, the boring Sarah, the pleaser, wanted to help. It's hard to turn off 20 years of caretaking. I felt a twinge of pity for the pathetic creature crying on the other end of the line. But then I looked at Chloe's laptop screen. The timeline. The insults. Aging like milk. "Mark," I said softly. "Yes, honey?" "Hope." I could hear the hope in his voice. "You aren't coming home." "What?" "I changed the locks yesterday," I said. "And I filed for a temporary restraining order this morning. If you step foot on this property, you will be arrested." You can't do that." "It's my house." "It's my house," I corrected. "You left. You abandoned the marital home." "And regarding the bus ticket?" "Yes?" "Start walking." I hung up. The kitchen was silent for 3 seconds. Then, Chloe let out a long breath. That, she said, was satisfying. "He's going to come anyway," Emma said, her face serious. "He's a narcissist. He doesn't believe no applies to him. He thinks he can talk his way out of this if he can just get in your face. He'll find a way back." "Let him come," I said, surprising myself with the venom in my tone. "We'll be ready." The next 2 days were a strange purgatory. We knew he was coming. Even without money, a man like Mark would find a way. He would hitchhike, he would beg, he would steal. His ego wouldn't let him end the story at a gas station in Florida. He needed to have the last word. We prepared the house not like a home, but like a fortress. I went to the hardware store. I bought new deadbolts. I bought security cameras which Chloe installed in under an hour, linking them to a cloud server that recorded 24/7. "Why are we doing this, Mom?" Emma asked as I was testing the new lock on the back door. "The police have the restraining order on file. If he shows up, we just call 911. "Because," I said, tightening a screw, "I need him to see it. I need him to see that he can't just turn a key and walk back into our lives. I need the physical barrier as much as the legal one." We also prepared the evidence. The dining room table became a legal library. Emma organized the printed emails, the bank statements, the tracking logs, and the affidavits Mr. Harrison had sent over from the company. We made 3 copies of everything. One for the police, one for my divorce attorney, and one for Mark. Why one for Dad? Chloe asked. Because, Emma smiled, when you destroy someone, you should have the courtesy to show them exactly how you did it. Sunday afternoon. It was raining. A gray, miserable drizzle that matched the mood of the impending confrontation. We were in the living room. I was pretending to read a book. The girls were doing homework, or pretending to. We were all just waiting. At 4:15 p.m., Chloe's phone buzzed. Motion detected, she said. Driveway camera. My stomach dropped. I stood up and walked to the window, peering through the blinds. A taxi had pulled up. Not a verified Uber, but a beat-up local cab. The door opened, and a man stepped out. It took me a second to recognize him. Mark looked like he had aged 10 years and 5 days. His expensive suit was wrinkled and stained with sweat and dirt. He wasn't wearing a tie. His hair, usually perfectly gelled, was matted against his forehead. He hadn't shaved, and gray stubble covered his jaw. He leaned into the taxi window, arguing with the driver. I saw him pull a watch off his wrist, his Rolex, and hand it to the driver. He just paid for the cab with his watch, Chloe whispered, standing beside me. That's a $15,000 watch for a $300 ride. Desperation tax, Emma noted dryly. The taxi sped off, leaving Mark standing in the rain at the bottom of our driveway. He looked up at the house. His eyes were dark, sunken pits. He didn't look like a husband or a father. He looked like a storm that was about to make landfall. He started walking up the driveway. He didn't rush. He walked with a heavy, purposeful gait. Okay girls, I said, turning to them. Go upstairs. Lock your bedroom door. Call 911 now. Tell them the subject of the restraining order is on the premises. No, Emma said. She crossed her arms. We aren't hiding. Emma, this could get ugly. We're staying, Mom, Chloe said, standing next to her sister. He's not going to bully you. Not today. Not ever again. I looked at them. My babies. My soldiers. Okay, I nodded. But you stay behind me. Mark reached the front porch. He didn't knock. He tried the handle. Locked. He tried it again, rattling it violently. Then, he started pounding. Sarah, he roared. His voice was hoarse. Open this door. I know you're in there. I see the lights. Open the goddamn door. I walked to the door. I didn't open it. I shouted through the wood. Go away, Mark. The police are on their way. I don't care about the police, he screamed. I want to talk to my wife. I want to talk to my daughters. You can't steal my life and lock me out. You stole your own life, Mark. I shouted back. I'm going to break a window, Sarah, he threatened. I'm coming in. You can't keep me out of my own house. I heard him move toward the living room window. He's going to do it, I said to the girls. Let him, Emma said calmly. Breaking and entering. Adding to the list. Suddenly, there was a smash. Glass shattered. A rock had come through the side pane of the front door. Mark's hand reached through the jagged hole, fumbling for the deadbolt. Hey! I screamed, backing away. He got the lock to turn. The door swung open. Mark stood there, breathing heavily, rain dripping from his nose. He stepped onto the hardwood floor, the floor we had refinished together 3 years ago. He looked at me, then at the girls. You changed the locks, he said, accusingly. You actually changed the locks. Get out, I said, my voice shaking but loud. Get out right now. He took a step forward. I just want to sit down, Sarah. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I want to take a shower. I want to sleep in my bed. Just stop this nonsense. Let me sit down, and we can figure out the money. He truly believed it. He truly believed he could just walk in, sit on the couch, and negotiate his way out of betrayal. There is nothing to figure out, I said. The money is gone, Mark, Chloe said. She stepped out from behind me. Mark looked at her. Chloe. Sweetheart. Daddy is having a really bad week. Don't start with your computer games. It's not a game, Chloe said. She held up her iPad. I know the money isn't in the Cayman account. Because I'm the one who intercepted the transfer. Mark froze. He looked at the iPad, then at Chloe, then at me. His brain was trying to process the impossible. What? He whispered. You didn't send the money to the Caymans, Chloe said, her voice clear and cutting. You sent it to a holding LLC called Karma Consulting. I manage the keys. The money is sitting in a secured domestic account. Safe. Untouched. And completely out of your reach. Mark's face went pale. Then red. Then purple. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He hadn't been unlucky. He hadn't been scammed by a stranger. He had been outsmarted by his teenage daughter. You. He pointed a trembling finger at Chloe. You stole my money? You little witch. Give it back. That is my money. He lunged toward Chloe. Don't you touch her. I screamed, throwing myself in front of him. But he didn't get the chance. Police. Hands in the air. 2 officers burst through the open doorway, guns drawn. They had arrived silently while Mark was screaming. Mark froze, his hand half raised toward his daughter. Get on the ground. Now. The officer shouted. Mark looked at the cops. He looked at me. For a second, I saw the fight leave his eyes. He slumped. He sank to his knees, not in prayer, but in defeat. It's my house, he whimpered as the officer grabbed his wrists and clicked the handcuffs into place. It's my money. I'm the victim here. You have the right to remain silent, the officer recited. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I watched them drag him up. He looked back at me one last time. Sarah, he said. Please. I looked him in the eye. Goodbye, Mark. They led him out into the rain. The flashing blue lights of the cruiser illuminated the living room, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. I turned to the girls. Emma was holding Chloe's hand. They were both trembling now that the adrenaline was fading. It's over, I said, pulling them into a hug. He's gone. But I was wrong. It wasn't over. The legal war was just beginning. The next morning, I wasn't making breakfast. I was sitting in a conference room at the police station, flanked by my new lawyer, a shark named Mrs. Sterling that Mr. Harrison had recommended, and my 2 daughters. Across the table sat Mark, looking even worse after a night in a holding cell, and a public defender who looked like he hadn't slept in a week. Mrs. Reynolds, the public defender began, shuffling papers. My client is willing to admit that emotions ran high. But the charges? Breaking and entering his own home? Harassment? This is a domestic dispute, not a criminal case. We want the charges dropped, and Mark wants to return home to work on the marriage. Mrs. Sterling didn't even look up from her notes. She just smiled. It was a terrifying smile. Counselor, she said smoothly. You seem to be under the impression that we are here to discuss a broken window. We aren't. She nodded to Emma. Emma placed a thick binder on the table. Thud. We are here, Emma said, to discuss grand larceny, wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to defraud a spouse. Mark's eyes widened. What is this? This, Emma opened the binder, is the audit of your last 2 years. Let's start with the company credit card. Emma walked them through it. The ghost dinners. The fake travel. The jewelry purchases disguised as office supplies. Mr. Harrison has already filed charges for the theft of $45,000 in company funds, Mrs. Sterling added. That's a felony. But let's talk about the family money. He didn't steal it. Mark's lawyer argued. He moved marital assets. That's a civil matter for divorce court. Actually, Chloe piped up, opening her laptop. He attempted to move marital assets into an offshore account in a non-extradition jurisdiction with the expressed written intent, in an email to his mistress, of permanently depriving his wife and children of access. That is criminal fraud. Chloe played the audio recording from the iPad. The one where Mark told Tiffany, "I'm done paying for everyone else's life. By the time she gets a lawyer, the money will be offshore and I'll be gone." The room went silent. Mark slumped in his chair. The public defender rubbed his temples. And, Chloe continued, delivering the final blow, regarding the money he moved. He didn't actually move it. I intercepted the packet data. The money is currently sitting in a holding account controlled by a limited liability company. You hacked him? The public defender asked, squinting at Chloe. No, Chloe smiled innocently. I secured the family assets. And here is the kicker. Since Mark initiated the transfer using his own credentials, and authorized the movement of funds to an account he believed was his, he legally consented to the transfer. The fact that he was too incompetent to realize he was sending it to a trap account is not my problem. Mrs. Sterling leaned forward. Here is the deal, Mark. We have enough evidence here to put you in prison for 10 years. Mr. Harrison is ready to press charges. The district attorney is very interested in your offshore banking attempts. What do you want? Mark whispered. He looked small. Defeated. We want a divorce, I said. Uncontested. You sign everything. You give up your claim to the house. You give up your claim to the girl's custody, not that you want it anyway. You give up your claim to the retirement accounts. You walk away with nothing. But, how will I live? Mark asked. I have no job. I have no money. You have your freedom, Mrs. Sterling said. If you sign this deal, Mrs. Reynolds will ask Mr. Harrison to drop the criminal charges regarding the company theft, provided you pay back the stolen $45,000 over time. And she won't press charges for the wire fraud attempted on the tuition fund. I can't pay back $45,000 if I have no job. That sounds like a you problem, I said. You're a smart guy, Mark. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Mark looked at the papers. He looked at the binder of evidence. He looked at his daughters, who were staring back at him with zero sympathy. He realized then that the women he had called simple and boring had completely dismantled his existence. With a shaking hand, he picked up the pen. He signed. The day Mark signed the papers was the day the house finally felt like ours again. But it needed to be purged. We spent the weekend cleaning. And I don't mean dusting. I mean exorcising. We went into the master bedroom. I pulled Mark's suits out of the closet. The expensive Italian wool suits he wore like armor. The silk ties. The shoes that cost more than our grocery budget for a month. What do we do with these? Emma asked, holding up a blazer. Donate them? No, I said. Donating them puts bad energy out into the universe. We trash them. We filled 10 black garbage bags. It was therapeutic. Every shirt I threw into a bag felt like shedding a layer of skin. I was throwing away the gaslighting, the criticism, the feeling of never being enough. Then we found the box. It was hidden in the back of his sock drawer. A small, velvet box. I opened it. Inside was a receipt for the bracelet he had bought Tiffany. And a note. A handwritten note on hotel stationery. My dearest Tiffany, you make me feel like a king. Sarah makes me feel like a servant. I can't wait to start our kingdom together. I read it out loud. Chloe pretended to gag. He writes like a bad romance novel. A servant, I repeated. I cooked his meals. I washed his clothes. I raised his children. I managed his money. And I made him feel like a servant? Projection, Emma said, tossing a pair of cufflinks into the trash. He felt small because deep down he knew you were the one holding everything together. You were the structure. He was just the decoration. And decorations get insecure when they realize they aren't load-bearing. Load-bearing, I smiled. I like that. I am load-bearing. We dragged the bags to the curb. As the garbage truck rumbled down the street the next morning and swallowed the remnants of Mark's vanity, I felt a physical weight lift off my chest. I went back inside and looked at the kitchen. The granite island where my world had fallen apart just a week ago. Hey girls, I called out. They came running down the stairs. Who wants pancakes? I asked. Pancakes? Chloe asked. It's Tuesday. You usually check the accounts on Tuesday. The accounts are fine, I said, cracking an egg into a bowl. The tuition is paid. The money is safe. Today, we eat pancakes. With extra chocolate chips. We sat there eating, laughing, getting syrup on the table. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel tense. It didn't feel like we were walking on eggshells, waiting for Mark to come home and criticize the noise or the mess. It felt like freedom. You're probably wondering what happened to the others. The villains of our story. Mark didn't go to prison, thanks to our deal, but he entered a prison of his own making. Without a reference from Mr. Harrison, and with a reputation for embezzlement whispering through the industry, he couldn't get a job in real estate. Last I heard, he was working at a car rental counter at the airport. He lives in a studio apartment across town. He sends the girls emails sometimes, birthdays, holidays. They usually don't reply. They aren't angry anymore, they're just indifferent. And indifference is a far worse punishment for a narcissist than hate. As for Tiffany, Chloe couldn't resist one last twist of the knife. A week after the showdown, Chloe logged back into the Kyle account. Tiffany, Kyle. Where are you? Why did you block me? I'm in Miami and I have no money. That creep Mark had nothing. Please, baby, I need you. Kyle, Chloe, hey Tiff. Sorry. I decided to go to Ibiza with someone else. Someone who isn't a gold digger. By the way, good luck with the rent on that sublet. I heard they evict pretty fast in Florida. Tiffany, you can't do this to me. I left everything for you. Kyle, Chloe, you didn't leave it for me. You left it for the money. And guess what? The house always wins. Or in this case, the wife wins. Chloe sent one final image. It wasn't a fake photo of Kyle. It was a selfie of the three of us, me, Emma, and Chloe, sitting on our couch, holding mugs of hot chocolate, smiling. She hit send. Then she deleted the account. We heard later through the grapevine, small towns talk, that Tiffany had to move back in with her parents in Ohio. Her reputation in the local business community was shot. No one wanted to hire the intern who helped try to bankrupt a Deacon's company. They tried to play a game with our lives. They tried to gamble with my children's future. But they forgot the golden rule of gambling: never sit down at a table if you don't know who the sucker is. Because if you don't know, it's probably you. 6 months later. I stood in front of the mirror. The woman staring back at me didn't look frumpy. She looked vibrant. I had cut my hair, a short, sharp bob that Mark would have hated. I was wearing a red dress. Not from Walmart, but from a boutique. I had bought it with my own money, from my new job. Yes, I went back to work. Turns out, a forensic accountant who can uncover hidden offshore assets and dismantle a complex embezzlement scheme in less than 48 hours is in high demand. Mr. Harrison told a few friends about what I did. One of them was a partner at a major law firm. They hired me as a consultant for high-net-worth divorces. My job? Finding the money that husbands try to hide from their wives. I love it. Every time I find a hidden account, every time I expose a secret LLC, I feel like I'm striking a blow for every woman who has ever been told she's too simple to understand finances. I walked downstairs. The house was quiet again, but a good quiet. Emma and Chloe were packing. The hallway was filled with boxes. Stanford was written in Sharpie on half of them. MIT on the other half. Do you have your warm coats? I asked, fussing over a stack of sweaters. Boston gets cold, Chloe. Mom, I'm fine, Chloe smiled. She was wearing a hoodie, of course. I'll hack the weather if it gets too cold. And Emma, do you have your pepper spray? Mom, I'm going to Palo Alto, not a war zone, Emma laughed. Besides, if anyone messes with me, I'll just sue them into oblivion. I looked at them. My masterpieces. Mark had called them an expense. He had called them a burden. He had tried to steal the very foundation of their future to buy himself a second youth. But looking at them now, I realized something. They weren't just smart. They were kind. They were fierce. And they were loyal. I'm going to miss you guys, I said, feeling the tears prick my eyes. The house is going to be so big. You'll be busy, Emma said, hugging me. You have 3 cases to crack next week, remember? And, Chloe added, hugging me from the other side, we installed a video portal in the kitchen. We're having dinner together every Sunday. Virtual family dinner. Non-negotiable. Non-negotiable, I agreed. We loaded the car, a new SUV I had leased, having finally traded in the rattling minivan. As we drove to the airport, I rolled the window down. The air smelled like autumn. Crisp. Clean. I thought about the woman I was 6 months ago. The woman sobbing on the kitchen floor, covered in cold coffee, believing her life was over. I wanted to go back in time and hug her. I wanted to tell her, stand up. Wipe your face. The best part of your life is just beginning. People ask me if I hate Mark. Honestly? No. Hate takes too much energy. Hate requires me to care about him. And I don't care about him. He is just a character in a chapter of my book that I have finished reading. But I do thank him. I thank him for showing me exactly how strong I am. I thank him for underestimating me, because it gave me the element of surprise. And I thank him for being such a villain that he forced my daughters to become heroes. If you are listening to this story, and you feel like you are stuck, like you are invisible in your own marriage, like you are sacrificing pieces of yourself to keep someone else warm, I want you to listen to me. You are not simple. You are not boring. You are not rotting. You are the engine. You are the foundation. And if someone tries to tear you down, remember, you can build a fortress out of the rubble. Check the accounts. Know the passwords. Don't make yourself small to fit in someone else's pocket. My name is Sarah. I'm 46 years old. I'm a mother, a forensic accountant, and a woman who took back her life. And the tuition fund? It's fully paid. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed seeing justice served, please hit that like button and share this with a strong woman in your life. You never know who needs to hear it. And let me know in the comments, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have let Mark come back, or would you have changed the locks like I did? Until next time, stay strong, stay smart, and keep your receipts.